Hey everybody, welcome to a fresh episode of dtown TV. Joining me again this time is my buddy Pete Collins. Pete, glad
how's it going, Larry?
You know what? Couldn't be better. Well, it could be.
Yeah.
Okay.
Here, wait.
Okay, that's much better. That's much better. Okay. So, Pete is one of the Photoshop guys, a professional photographer. Before you came here, you're no longer a professional photographer once you come on staff here. And folks, what's really cool is you are watching this, and hopefully you're watching it live. If you ever want to see our shows live, and this is everything, it's dtown TV, it's another show that Pete's on, Photoshop User TV, and then I do Nap News, and that goes live, and so just anything that we do from the greater Kelby studios is beamed out live when we do it at kelbytv.com/on-air. And you can watch it live. Now, right now, we're doing our second episode in a row of dtown TV. And so if you're not watching it live, you had to wait an extra week to see this. So everybody should all the time, always, just be watching kelbytv.com/on-air, just in case something really cool happens.
Yep. Should be right on your browser. It's one of your favorites, and you just go there every day.
Just stay there.
Yep.
Yeah, that's it. Now, Pete, we're going to top the show with you.
A little tip that I've got for you.
Yeah, please.
Well, before I came here, I was doing a lot of different photography. I was freelancing for newspapers. I shot weddings, shot a lot of events. And one of the things I learned is that one of the most valuable things that you can have in your photo gear, besides Canon or Nikon, is that you need to think about when you go on an assignment, what you pack in your bag. And one of the one of the least thought about things is to make sure that you have food and water available to you. Wedding photographers often forget that they may not have a chance to stop and grab something to eat or something to drink while they're going. And as a photographer, you have to be sharp and you have to be focused a lot of the time when an event's going on. If you're hungry or you're dehydrated, you're going to lose out on an option to get that shot. Or you may have to go off and get some food or something and miss that critical moment. Yeah. So what I tell people is always, if you've got a camera bag, or even I showed last time the spider holster, I always carry a water bottle attachment with me, because water is going to be the number one thing that you got to stay hydrated, especially when you're working all day carrying that gear. But then also you want food and stuff. When I'm going to a wedding, I always pack Cliff Bars or Power Bars, something that I can throw in my suit pocket or something, so that on the run between shooting the bride going to the groom, I'm taking a quick bite and I'm keeping my energy up throughout the whole thing.
That's a great idea.
Because otherwise you're just going to wipe yourself out. A couple other things I like to carry in my bag is something like, Fruit Loops. Always helpful. Pop-Tarts are also another go-to food. We were going to pull out like a turkey and something like that, but you always got to make sure that I don't even put camera gear in my bag. I bring food so that I am good to go.
We've done a lot of bag segments. I've done one on what's in my bag, and RC,
I need a crisper section in my
You do, or a little coolie at least, or something like that. But yeah, I do occasionally remember to throw something in the bag, in the camera bag, but most of the time I forget it. And that's a great point.
You've got to plan for it, because most of the time a wedding's 8 hours or so. If you're going to an event or something like that, you may not be. The best shot may be 100 yards from anything you can get to quickly, so you're stuck out there.
Sure.
And you don't want to be passing out, but you also don't want to be just distracted by not having the stuff. So that's a real helpful tip for me.
That's a great one, Pete. I appreciate it very much. We've got a whole lot more in the show. I've got a tip that is inspired by one of your comments after the break, and we will be back right after this.
Hey everybody, Tony Corbell. For me, it's always been about light control. It's light quality, light quantity, light direction. Think about the light tools that we have to work with. Sunlight, ambient light, portable flash, studio lights. There's not one tool that is sort of everything to all pictures. You really do have to have a variety of light shaping tools. And in this case, we're going to look at several of them. If we can take those 4 tools of light and understand all the controls that we have, what we can do with our photography is unlimited. We can do anything that we want once we understand the foundation of our craft. I hope you'll tune in. We've got a lot more things in store for you here at kelbytraining.com.
Oh, no.
All right, we're back, and once again, we just can't say enough about the quality of instructors that we have over on kelbytraining.com.
Sure.
That's who sponsors the show. We couldn't do this without them. And if you really want to do, RC talks about this a lot, diversify your skill set, there's no better place to go, because you can learn how, if you're a shooter, and say you're a wedding photographer, you'll learn how to shoot other things. And as a matter of fact, I have the feeling that a wedding photographer has to know how to shoot so many different things because of what's going to be thrown up at them. And so make sure you check out kelbytraining.com. It is such a good site.
Very cool stuff.
Now, coming back in, you're going to give us 7 better ways to use the light that's coming from your flash.
Yeah, in fact, this was actually inspired by some comments, and some people were asking about some speed light tips. And I thought, you know, I've got all kinds of different speed light tips, like in the ones that you hear from me and David Zeiser and Scott Kelby all the time, like move it off the camera. So that's the first thing, but that doesn't even count as one of the 7. So I've got 7 better ways to use a speed light. And moving it off the camera is the start. Get the little foot and put the little foot on, so you can kind of put it wherever you want. Set it up in a room wherever you want. One of the next things that you can do is bounce the light. Now, again, these are starter tips. These are beginner tips, and a lot of you already know this. The reason that the light isn't stuck in that position is so that you can point it at a white wall or a white ceiling and bounce the light to get a larger light source. Effectively, your light source is going from being about an 1.5 inches by 3 inches to being something 6 feet or 8 feet by another 8 feet, by being a large white area or light colored ceiling or wall or something like that. So bouncing your flash is a good place to go. Flag the flash. Now, occasionally you're going to find that you have a little bit too much light, so just grab this is a little piece of cardboard, grab anything, and you can flag the flash. Just tape it on there, and that way you're just controlling the light. Obviously, if you have flash benders or something like that from the Rogue folks, something like that comes out of my camera bag all the time, and I will flag the flash. Another thing that you can do is shoot into the light to create silhouettes. So take and David Zeiser is the first place I saw this taught, but I've seen several people doing it very effectively. You take your speed light and put it on the other side of a couple that you're photographing, or any people that you're photographing. And so it's across the room at a great distance, and you're shooting right into the light, and your subject is in between you. And so then they get this halo of light around them by the light beaming back at the camera lens. Another thing is, don't ever hesitate to use gels. I see so many people that are just ignoring using gels. They're very simple and straightforward to use. And CTO, I think this is a half-cut CTO for color temperature orange. And you can use this to add artistic effects. You can go to Michael's and get gel-like material. It's not photography gel, but it's material like that. And you can put that over your flash for special effects and mood lighting and things like that. Joe McNally uses that to an expert level. Another thing that you can do is a large bounce card. So if you don't have a white wall or a light-colored wall or ceilings or anything like that, a large bounce card like this, I remember years ago seeing a photographer who took a large index card and just put a rubber band on it and did that. So anything that you can do to get a larger area. And then the other thing is put a napkin in front of it. Now, my flash always has the speed strap on it, because I've got all kinds of different little things that I attach to a speed strap. And I found myself in a circumstance once when I didn't have access to any kind of diffuser, and I grabbed a little knife and stuck it in there. Now I've got a diffuser. Now it's a lame diffuser. It's a little napkin thing. I'll tell you what, I see a lot of pro photographers grab a napkin or something like that and hold it up in front of their flash. And so I've done that on more than one occasion. And finally, I got to wrap it up with this one. This was a cheap shot from a long time ago. This is a kind of a frosted report cover folder material. I got it at the FedEx office store, used to be Kinko's, and you can go in and buy a sheet of it for 50 or 75 cents. And I cut them in this exact shape for 2 reasons. Number one, they fit inside my pouch for my speed light. Number two, when I fold it over and put it in that speed strap like this, it makes a really nice little dome diffuser, makeshift dome diffuser. And yeah, it does let light spill out the side just a little bit out there, but most of the light is going forward and being diffused by this surface. So I carry one of those with me everywhere. So hopefully you picked up at least 1 or 2 little things that you can do, not to mention, you know, your standard reflector and things like that. So that's those are my 7 or 8
Well,
different things.
I'm going to throw in one too. Knowing what you do, one of the things I carry is I always carry something like this in my backpack because it adds a little cushioning, but if I ever need an ad hoc light bouncer, light reflector, I can take this and with a simple rubber band, strap that to it, and now the light's coming up here and being thrown off. So
That's
always
very
have
cool.
something.
Now, this is a pouch. So
Yeah, that's just like a little book came in. I could also put it over the front of it. Lots of different ways you can use it, and that's going to give you extra protection for your equipment, but also act as a nice diffuser.
Okay.
So take that, Larry.
dumb little story. When Pete very first started working here, he said, I'm a cheap shots guy too. And I went, really? Another one? Because nobody else here is a cheap shots guy, but Pete absolutely is. We spent like 30 or 45 minutes just sitting there just talking back and forth about stupid little things we've cobbled together.
Well, when you can't afford to buy the stuff, you've either got to beg, borrow, or steal it, or
Right.
build it.
Yeah.
And so, you got to use what you do, and it's all about just understanding how the light's going to work.
Absolutely. Now, speaking of understanding things, Michael Corsentino,
glad you said that.
has a tip for us about shooting from different angles.
Hey, welcome back, everybody. RC here with Mr. Michael Corsentino. What's going on?
What up?
How you doing,
Good.
man?
Good to be here.
Hey, so Michael, early in the season, talked a little bit about, the entire wide open versus shot and artistic style. But one of the things that we didn't talk about was editorial. Like, a lot of the stuff that you shoot has a very, very different flair and a very different take. It's not what you would traditionally would see. And you talked a little bit about, positions and a whole bunch of different types of things that I figured that would be good information for you guys to have. So just kind of take us through that. You were talking about positioning.
Sure. Well, RC and I spoke about ways to make your photographs look compelling and different, and some of the things that I do that I like in my work. And one of the things we touched on was choosing different angles, like not always shooting standing up at eye level, because that's a vantage point that we're all really used to seeing, and it can kind of make your photos look somewhat common or snapshotty. So I don't necessarily do it for that reason. It's kind of a natural thing, but
Right.
doing that, getting down low, getting up high, are ways that you change your vantage point, and it makes for much more interesting looking
Now,
photographs.
in this picture that you have here, I mean, it looks like you were
Pretty
somewhat
much,
low.
yeah, pretty much on my belly for these. And I always joke around with my clients where I say that if you need to find me, look on the floor, because I'll be somewhere on my belly photographing.
But it does give you a really, really nice vantage point when
Absolutely.
it comes to that. I love how these angles and that flare. Was that Photoshop?
No, that was in camera. That was in camera. Yep, exactly.
Good work,
And
Michael.
this is, again, it's the same thing we talked about in the last episode, is using your brain. That's the most important tool that you have. Aside, camera is secondary, and all your equipment, your brain, and making those choices. So this vantage point makes her look very heroic and commanding and different, and it wouldn't work for all subject matter. So you're making those choices and figuring out what's going to work, for you. Like, for example, let's take a look at this one. Now, in this one, I just use a little bit of a tilt, just to create a little bit of an edgy quality to the portrait. So
I
it's
tilt
just,
a lot.
Yeah.
I tilt a lot. Almost everything that I grab, I give it a little bit of a tilt. It just kind of gives it a nice feel. But it's something that you commonly wouldn't see. And this just looks like it's just like a metal grating or
Fence.
like a fence.
Yeah.
But it has that nice look to it. It has that kind of that Vanity Fair-ish kind of
Thanks.
beautiful
Appreciate
celebrity
that. I
portrait.
love that style of lighting,
Now,
so I appreciate
here's
that.
one thing that you were talking to me. You were talking to me about location.
Exactly.
Scouting a location.
Yeah, I scout locations constantly. Doing location portraits, one of the most important players in your photograph, aside from your subjects, is going to be your location and the story that location tells. So obviously here we have a portrait of a mother and child on a beach. That's going to be a very different look and feel, and obviously wouldn't work. For example, let's take a look at this picture of Russell Brown. The two obviously would not, putting the Mad Hatter on the beach wouldn't have the same impact as a kind of a gritty industrial setting, right? And the same vice versa for the mother and child. It just wouldn't work.
So now
Putting
in
her
your
here.
area, would you just like drive around and just like look for locations?
Wherever I am, yeah, absolutely. And with Lightroom now, you can geotag your locations, which is great, and you can share them with clients or art directors and say, hey, this is what I have in mind. What do you think? And that sort of stuff. So there are all sorts of tools.
Very, very cool. So just a couple of things to be able to consider when you want to take your style and kind of make it a little bit different from Mr. Michael Corsentino. Now, if people want to find out more about you, where do they go?
MichaelCorsentino.com.
All right, so you have a
Real
blog,
simple.
you have portfolio.
I do, yeah,
websites.
CorsentinoBlog.com.
You'll be talking about the book.
Yep.
The book will be out.
Yeah,
so,
Canon Speedlight book.
So it's going to be good. Michael, again, a blast.
Thanks, RC.
Thanks.
Appreciate it.
Fashion, lighting. I'm obsessed with red. Red is arresting, it's eye-catching. People can go anywhere for beautiful headshots, nice portraits. But what I like to do is give them something a little more. Have a concept. I like to tell a story. As a professional portrait and fashion photographer, I like to take the elements of fashion photography and apply them to my portrait and wedding work. We'll cover locations, props, hair and makeup, just a lot of different elements that you can apply to your work and really stand out from the crowd. Fashion Flair is not ordinary, it's exciting. So come watch my class, Fashion Flair, at kelbytraining.com.
And welcome back from one of my favorite commercials of all time for Kelby
I was going to say of all time, wow.
Yeah, well, Kelby Training. So yeah, anything that's a Kelby Training commercial is one of my favorites.
Yep.
Yeah. You have a photographer's site to watch or a photographer to watch for inspiration?
Yeah. Well, when I got asked to come do this, I thought, okay, I got to pimp one of my friends because you know, that's what you do. And so this is a friend of mine, great guy that really helped me out a lot when I started doing stock photography on iStock Photo. And his name is Jeff Hammond. And you can check him out on hammondovey.com. He's got a lot of great stuff. He does all kinds of stuff.
Nice.
He's just a great guy, great photography, and I just wanted to pimp him. Besides, now I can have him owe me something. So
now, is he the photographer that took the picture that's in Hobby Lobby?
No.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Oh, that's a whole nother story. But if you go into Hobby Lobby, if you're interested, you walk into Hobby Lobby, go to the frame section. I'm in there with my son.
Yeah.
I'm kind of known as Mr. Hobby Lobby, so there you go.
You're in just tons of different frames.
Yep.
It's kind of a creepy thing. So in any case, so there was that, and we also have a contest. How does this work?
Well, for the contest, you're going to need to go to one place and leave a comment. And that place is right here at
dtown TV.
I was hoping you'd jump in so I wouldn't look like I didn't know what I was talking about.
You can go to dtowntv.com, but it'll take you to kelbytv.com/dtowntv. And that's where we need you to leave a comment. Any comment makes you eligible to win the prize. And this week's prize is this book.
Great book about photographing families.
Yeah.
And it's by Tamara Lackey. We had her on the grid just a couple weeks ago. Great photographer, great with kids and families, and this is a wonderful resource.
And I got a copy of this book. I have yet to have 5 minutes to open it. I'm really looking forward to it, especially since seeing her on the grid. One other
We
thing.
just had something whispered from off stage quietly.
Yeah,
we can't forget that our good friend Jeremy Cowart just updated his website, and it's a great website.
Yep, jeremycowart.com. And the cool thing about Jeremy is, besides his great photography, which is really inspiring photography, also, he's the guy behind Help Portrait.
Yep.
And if you're a photographer, you gotta look into that. It's a very cool thing, Help Portrait is. Okay, so back to the prize thing. Leave a comment. The comment can be anything like, you know, the end of the show wasn't neat and tidy, or whatever you want to say about it, and you will be eligible to win a pro level lens bracelet.
Not only the book, but we've got these bracelets.
Yeah, pro level lens bracelets.
And you can either wear these, or I've got one that I put on my lens to help keep it from creeping around. It's a great little thing to have. And these pro ones let you be really snobbish about what kind of camera you have.
Yeah.
You know, because it's all about the gear.
Pete, you have done an extraordinary job.
I've done something, all right.
Standing in for my buddy RC. And RC and Matt should be back with us again in the near future. Until then, I'm Larry Becker.
I'm Pete Collins.
Guys, thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.